You're now listening to the Creatives and Design Cast with your host, Teron Joyner. Creatives and is a podcast for individuals with a love for design, art, and business combined. This is an A to Z guide for those trying to balance and navigate life through the creative perspective, from personal to business and everything in between. Be sure to subscribe and catch new episodes Wednesday, available wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us at Creatives and on all platforms. Have a topic in mind? Submit your ideas to creativesand@1991.agency. Here's your host, Teron Joyner.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Creatives and Design Cast, the show by a creative for creatives. I'm your host, Teron Joyner, and this is the second episode of this show. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to listen for the first episode. I'm so grateful. I'm also super excited to continue to connect with some cool creatives and talk about subjects that we all want more insight or advice on. This is the second episode that I decided not to feature guests, at least not in the traditional way. I did do a questionnaire on I Love Creatives to get insight from other creatives in other industries about their experience with pricing, billing, having the money mindset, and things of that nature. So we'll talk about that more as we get into the episode. On this week's episode, we will talk about creatives and pricing, billing, and the money mindset. Ready? Let's talk turkey. Money, moolah, dinero, pesos, dough, cheddar, paper. The many different names, or shall I say terms of endearment for money, is a list that could go on for several days at best. Before I get into the pricing and billing, I want to talk about money in general. Any issues regarding how an individual navigates pricing and billing for their business often tends to evolve around our personal relationships with money. Money is at the heart of capitalism, and capitalism is the fuel for the machine, better known as the United States of America. Actually, pretty much any modernized country depends on money to operate. Even in what some consider uncivilized cultures or communities, they have some form of payment for services or goods provided. So essentially, the model of giving something to get something, it's worldwide. As citizens of our respective countries, we are all introduced into a relationship with money, and this is oftentimes before we reach the age of maturity, with most of us having first dealt with money in our mid to late teenage years and into our ongoing adult lives. It's just really strange that we get antsy and nervous when talking about it. For some odd reason, it's more comfortable to hear someone tell you how much they're going to give you than for you to tell them how much they should give you, despite your experience, your years of knowledge, your investments in yourself, and other factors. This is called the money taboo, which speaks about the fear behind talking about money. Purokista Kapoor, a novelist and journalist in New York, believes that the money taboo means that people are going to get cheated over and over. And I'm quoting her when I'm saying this. People are going to get cheated over and over, and it tends to be women, people of color, people in marginalized positions. If people are silent about problems, things can be perpetuated. And she is completely correct. When you don't discuss money in the way that it benefits you, then you leave yourself wide open to being fucked over in the process. But what's the why? I always ask this question, what's the why? Why do we as humans subject ourselves to being bullied by money that we can actually have the power to control? Another article that I was reading quotes anthropologist Caitlin Zaloom, who states that we have to consider a few factors to understand the why. She says, your value as a human being is somehow made material in your pay and in your accounts. Furthermore, if people were to be more honest and forthright about their income, they'd be essentially exposing how they are valued by their employer and others, which can be kind of embarrassing, if other people are talking about what they make and, you may be making less than them. Since there is no standard of measurement for financial metrics, People find it hard to know where they fall on the spectrum in comparison to family members, friends, coworkers, etc. Being intimidated, embarrassed, and silent about money only holds us back from breaking the silence and asking for the money that we deserve. All of this can be a hard pill to swallow, considering this is an issue that can be fixed, though, and that's the bright side of it. After all, most of you listening now are freelancers, entrepreneurs, and/or artists in your own right, so surely this won't be the toughest thing you've done or will do. So, let's start with reversing how you view money. Growing up, most of us have probably heard the age-old adage, money is the root of all evil. Personally, I feel like this was meant to keep the rich richer and the poor feeling bad about having any money at all. I will let you in on a little secret. Money is amoral, meaning that money is not good or bad. It can't spend itself, it has no face except for the dead prezes on it, and it has no personality. People, on the other hand, people do have morals. People are the ones who can be good or bad. What we as people do with money can be good or bad, not the money itself. This means that you are essentially free to make as much money as you want and never be categorized as an evil or bad person unless you use your newly gained riches for world domination or something crazy like that. We have to be honest and open about money so that we can have a better understanding of where we are in terms of reaching our goals and not surpassing our budgets. While we are reshaping our view of money, we should keep in mind that experience is not the determining factor that will dictate how much money you make or can ask for. I know some of you are probably calling me crazy right now, but think about it. In this new age of information driven by technology and the current economy, in certain industries, even education has become less relevant in determining the kind of money someone makes. When I say this, I am by no means discrediting education as a whole. I just believe that school teaches you how to learn and is a show of your level of discipline. That is a conversation for another day, though. The bottom line is that business is and has always been about value. What can this person, or better yet, what can this person's good or service do for me and mine? I think a good example of this is the young app creators that seem to become successful overnight. Most of these kids haven't even finished school and have little to no professional experience, but they might be making huge amounts of money faster than they can even spend it. Why? They provide a good that has the potential to bring millions of people together, which in turn brings corporate companies running to throw their money at the product, the app, just to get in front of these millions of people. Well, that's not me, you say. Why the fuck not? Because you don't create apps? Bullshit. This structure of that's not me and I'll never be able to do that has to do with your money mindset, and we'll talk about that later in the episode. The amount of money you make is not necessarily a personal reflection on you. It is a reflection of the value your service or good provides. I even think that this can be used loosely as opposed to just strictly for a tangible good or visible service one can profit from. For example, you can be a good person, giving, kind, funny, dependable, the whole nine, but simply not like the job you have, so your work ethic, aka your service, in that setting would not be considered valuable to the team. If you were in a position that you enjoyed, you want to contribute, and 9 times out of 10, your work ethic, your service, would be extremely valuable to the team because you'd be in an environment where you felt that you could thrive. When you provide something valuable, people will pay for it. That is the in and the out of it. So if it's so simple, Tehran, why am I not getting paid what I want? Well, we will talk about that when we come back from this short break. This episode of the Creatives and Design Cast is sponsored by Talia Wajid Green Apple and Aloe, a nutritive hair care regimen that strengthens and moisturizes the hair while remaining gentle enough for daily use. Sulfate-free with vitamins, fiber, and protein for supreme softness, effective cleansing, and moisture retention. Get 30% off site-wide just in time for Mother's Day. Go to www.naturalhair.org. Talia Wajid, healthy hair, healthy body. Welcome back, everyone. We are discussing creatives and pricing, billing, and the money mindset. When we left off, we were tying up the conversation about money in general. I hope that some of the things I spoke about stick with you, and I hope that we all can be more conscious of our view of money. Now we are going to get into pricing. Honestly, this has to be one of the most searched topics on Google: how to price my services. To be truthful, there is no standard, correct way to do this. Pricing your goods and services depend on the way you currently run or want to run your business. You also have to consider what you need to make to be profitable, because no one wants to work for free or for clout. In the beginning, that's fine, I suppose, because you need to build your portfolio to show your range of work. But don't be the same designer doing pro bono work for a corporation because they promised you roads paved of gold, more work in the future, and connections. None of that sounds like paper, none of it sounds green, and none of it is accepted as tender by the electric company, the phone company, the mortgage company, you name it. Knowing how to increase your income can decrease the amount of work that you do. Work smarter, not harder. For this episode, I created a questionnaire to get other creatives to weigh in on their experience with pricing, billing, and the money mindset. I was really intrigued with the feedback that I received. The only thing everyone had in common was that you need to ask for money up front. Through this segment and the next, you'll hear where I am inserting their input depending on what I'm talking about at the time. Okay. So, Tehran, why are you holding out? How the hell do I price my work? I'm sure that's what you're asking. Fellow creative Michelle at Sourced Collective says to have a defined offering, price check around, but ultimately price it according to value to your time. I like Michelle's approach because it's something that I did when I was new to freelancing. I Googled to price check as much as I could, but I based my initial price off of my experience instead of the value of my design skills. I thought that I didn't deserve to charge as much as I wanted to because I was new to the industry. In truth, I shortchanged myself so many times. Your pricing has to consider, number one, what makes you or your business profitable. Number two, the level of service and convenience you're providing. Number three, the market. Number four, supply and demand. And number five, your ideal client and their worth to you. Aaliyah at Left Brain Creative Group says, a lot of creatives who are just starting out tend to look outward when figuring out pricing. I get it, doing research, right? But I know how that research can become an escape to find someone doing something comparable and then charge slightly less. This was my approach until I started to dig into the way I felt about my pricing. A key question for me was, what price do I need to charge for my services to energetically show up as my best self for these projects? And I think that is a really great answer. Thank you, Aaliyah, for that. Great answer to include here. I recall when I got into website design, which at the time I thought meant design, development, launch, and 5 other different jobs. Design and development for sites is not the same, though there can be freelancers or agencies that provide both, plus a plethora of other services to get your business on the web. But me, website designing, wow, that had to be a time where I assigned very little value to my valuable skills and services. I actually charged $500 for like an 8-page full website or something, plus a month of free hosting, which often becomes a fisticuffs with your client when they forget that you're hosting their website. That was such a stressful job, and it put a strain on my relationship with the client who was my friend at the time. Then I realized that I would never put myself through that again, so I would charge $1,100 for websites instead, right? Hell no. Wrong, wrong, wrong. The client who signed up for the $1,100 website seemed too good to be true at first, but then they turned into a complete nightmare because of scope creep. Put a pin in that phrase because we will talk about that in a second. Eventually, I had to learn the hard way that one price does not fit all. Every client is different and they all have different desires and budgets. So how to price, you ask? My answer, make it up. Yes, you heard me. Pick your type of pricing and make that shit up. Now, before you turn the podcast off and discredit me entirely, hear me out. There are several ways to price, but everyone has to find what suits them. You've got your hourly pricing, where you come to a number that you would like to charge someone hourly for the services you provide. You have your project-based pricing, where you listen to the client about what they need for this certain project, and you price according to a number of factors: how long it's going to take you, how much work you're putting into the time frame in which they need it, and even those factors depend on the project and the client. You have your retainer pricing, where you charge a certain amount a month, and you're pretty much on call for that amount a month to the company you have the retainer agreement with. We also have packages and productized services. So packages are where you group a certain number of offerings for a certain price. So you can have website design packages where you have package one that may cost $2,000, and that's for a 3-page website, first month of hosting, SEO and other things like that. Then you have package 2, which is a little more expensive, but it's the middle version. Package 3 is the most expensive, but has the most value. And productized services are things that are created ahead of time, things that are pretty much drop in and create, that you just sell. And they're kind of what I would explain as money that you can make in your sleep. I actually forgot the term for that kind of income, and it's just not coming to me at all. I'm sure I'll think about it after I stop recording. But moving on. I don't think that you have to stick to just one model of pricing either. The important thing is to just make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself by trying to offer so many options that you confuse your own self in the process. So for one-off projects, I have a freelance a la carte menu, if you will. But even there, I use the phrase starting at X amount of dollars. I have even gotten better at setting a number for the amount of one-off projects I accept per month. The smaller one-off projects like social media graphics for an upcoming celebrity interview get charged at my hourly rate. The reason I created an a la carte sheet is because I feel like everyone deserves great design, but may not have the budget or need for a huge rollout. Plus, I prefer word of mouth promotion to any other kind. You never know who others know, and you never know who's watching you and looking at your work, especially in this digital age where everyone is sharing everything all of the time. Anyway, projects that are larger, or clients that I get who give me projects that are larger, I ask that potential clients complete a questionnaire. This asks all the hard questions for me and helps me get a reference for their brand and budget in black and white. I will provide a link to a brand and budget questionnaire that's pretty general, and it'll detail the system that I use to do questionnaires. And you can edit that with your own branding, and that stuff will be located in the show notes. The way I price larger projects is through project-based pricing or retainers. Both do not factor in the hourly rate, but focus more on the value of your services. You also have benchmarking, which is looking at the market or your competition to see how you're going to charge. And as I stated before, that was a way that I started to price when I first got into the industry, but I don't use that anymore because while I respect and love to connect with other creatives and, love to just see and share their work, they're not me and I'm not them. So what they are charging for the services and value that they offer, it doesn't apply to me. It was something that I just really had to grow into and, stop looking at the next person to see what I should be doing, really because it's none of my business. If I look ahead, then I know exactly where I am all the time. And I suggest the same for you guys that are listening, beginner or novice, intermediate, whatever level that you're at. Whatever you do, don't quote on the spot. Just don't do it. If clients don't remember anything else you tell them, they will remember the price you quoted. And that shit is never fun once you start doing the math and the on-the-spot quoted price is less than what you should actually be charging. I think it's a good rule of thumb to always ask for a budget. Some clients may not answer the question and some may come right out with it. My mother, who happens to be a very successful businesswoman, is a person who doesn't like to really answer the budget question. She is the type of person and businesswoman that knows whether she wants to move forward when she hears the cost of something. And I mostly have seen this when it comes to design work. So, in the early days of the brand building, my mom and my dad, my parents, were doing pretty much all of the design, from the product labels to the website, to the business cards, to the flyer graphics. I mean, you name it. So I kind of understand her stance there, where she doesn't want to do the budget game because she kind of already knows what that cost looks like and what she's willing to pay based off of her personal experience with design, more specifically designing her products. So in the case that you run across someone like my mom, what do? Well, you can look at the factors that I mentioned earlier, including the worth of the client, and make it up from there. Well, what about those give me a ballpark clients? A favorite, an absolute favorite. It's simple though. You can answer with a wide spectrum of pricing to make sure that you don't lock yourself into something you know nothing about, or kindly decline to answer while mentioning that you would rather them take the questionnaire so you can have all the details and give them an exact rate, and then circle back to the budget question. For example, can you give me a ballpark of how much it's going to cost to design a website? Well, client A, it really depends on what you're looking for. Typically, sites run anywhere between $3,000 to $15,000, depending on what you want the site to do. I actually have a questionnaire that you can fill out so I can get more details about the project and give you an exact quote. Did you have a budget in mind? Did you have a number that you did not want to go over? That kind of information would be helpful to me. So that is a sample scenario of how you can handle that, which goes hand in hand with what I'm about to say. Everything in life is a negotiation, but remember to ask yourself, what is the perceived value with what I'm about to say? Low pricing may make you feel comfortable, but low prices also make your target customer question the quality and integrity of you and what you're offering. Think of this in terms of luxury. You know that when you walk into a Givenchy store and you see a $6,000 bag, you already know that the bag is worth that much just by looking at it and feeling it. You also know that if you want a bag that will last for years and possibly provide the ability to be passed down to your children, you're going to spend a lot more on it. But if you saw that same Givenchy bag in Walmart for $20, you'd have all sorts of questions, namely, how the hell did it get here? What is this made of? Just so many questions about the quality and integrity of the product, because, you're just not, you just have a weird feeling about that price of $20 for that kind of product. So don't be scared that your premium pricing will make a client apprehensive. It's quite the opposite, actually. If they really want to work with you and value you as a professional, they will do what it takes to meet you at your price or negotiate where both parties are happy, but not walking away feeling like they took a loss. If your quote doesn't make you nervous, it's not high enough. What is the perceived value? Meditate on your goals and how money can get you there. Also meditate on your ideal clients, because money is great, but working with nightmare clients is not, says Melissa, founder of ALAM Digital. Let your clients know, in so many words, that they get what they pay for. If they want the full Monty, then they will have to pony up. Yeehaw. If you feel bad for charging your normal rate during a pandemic, take a look at your pricing to determine how you can consider the effect of Corona specifically on your client's income and adjust accordingly. Adam at Enjoy Slow Tea says, in pre-pandemic times, he was invoicing $125 per hour to host a private tea ceremony for a group. Now, in the pandemic times, he's only requesting a sliding scale donation of $20 to $80. And I'm super interested in doing something with Adam because his reviews are stellar. So hopefully I can have him on as a guest in one of these next episodes. I'll let you guys know as soon as I know. For those of you who have determined your prices but are having trouble figuring out if you should increase your rates, I say yes. Take a look at your prices about every 4 to 6 months because things change. You learn more, the market changes, supply is low and demand is high. Just, anything can happen. So you need to make sure that you're monitoring the way that the industry is moving and just making sure that you're increasing your prices to get the money that you deserve and the money to support the lifestyle that you're living. If you do decide to increase your prices for your existing clients, you should let them know ahead of time. Once they are given the heads up, let your current clients know that you're going to continue to offer them their same rate for a certain amount of time before you start to charge them with your new rate. This gives your current clients time to adjust, and they'll be grateful that you were so considerate. For new clients, I suggest that you charge a little more than you did a month ago, maybe, and see what happens. Keep going until someone pushes back at you in a big way. If that happens, look at why. Always look at the why. Look at why they are pushing back. Ask the person for feedback on why they push back so that you know how high you can go for the time being. I recently decided to part ways with one of my beauty service providers because I didn't feel very valued as a customer. I didn't feel considered. I was never a customer that argued with this professional about her price. And I tried to let her know and show her that I valued her and also make sure she knew why. The last time I made an appointment, though, I detailed exactly what kind of service that I would like, which I, did most of the time and moved on from there. The day of my appointment, the service provider texted me and told me that she would have to charge me more because my service was so detailed. I was a little taken aback because I felt blindsided. After my last appointment, I expressed that I was unhappy with the end result, but that did not deter me from wanting to support the business. When she raised prices on me the day of, I was highly upset. In my head, I went over the fact that I had never challenged her price, and even when I was unhappy with her service, I did not demand a refund or a credit. What I did expect was some professional courtesy. When I was detailing my service, we could have discussed the price then, and I would have been more open to understanding her why behind the increase. I was a client who had no issue paying the amount of money that she asked. So, where was my courtesy in this? So when she communicated her new prices to me day of, I told her that I would really need to review the price because I didn't expect to receive a change in the service price on an appointment I booked in advance with the service details. Since that day, she hasn't reached out to me personally to check with me to see where I stand. I no longer feel valued. And so I'm taking my business elsewhere. Her experience doesn't matter at this point, and neither does her education. I simply don't want to work with anyone that does not value me or my business. This may sound harsh, but I tell this story to emphasize how important it is to be considerate to your clients. I mean, after all, they're spending money with you. And, when we're talking about money and asking for the rate that you deserve, you have to give a little too as the professional. Even if your client has the money to throw at you with nothing in return, people still want to know that they are valued. Money can honestly make or break a business relationship, so extend courtesy. I know I went off on a tangent a little bit there, but I promise you it's valuable info and insight. In talking about all of this, I realized that we hadn't really delved in on the subject of deposits, so we will get into that now. The general rule seems to be get a damn deposit. There's only one right way to get a deposit, and that is with a contract and an invoice. I cannot stress how important it is to document everything. Contracts are standard business agreements, and anytime you are providing a service in exchange for pay, you need a contract. This ensures that the initial scope of work, requirements from both parties, additional information that was discussed, cost of work, and schedule of payments are strictly adhered to. When we asked Atlanta DJ Penny Lane, she advised deposits are definitely required because gigs get canceled all the time. People claim that they have money that they actually don't, so always get a deposit. Most people who pay your deposit are serious about booking you. Deposits are a measure of good faith and are expected. So, don't shy away from requiring one. Any creative knows that the work starts when the client reveals what they are trying to accomplish. We can't help but to think of how we can rock the project in a reasonable amount of time. It is not wrong to get paid for thinking and brainstorming, so get rid of that philosophy ASAP. Roscoe at We Them said that his team tends to ask for 50% upfront to start a project and then an additional 25% once they get past the first phase. They do this so that way they aren't held in any position of having to constantly request payments from the clients. It also allows them a bit of leverage on managing a client. It allows for them to take a bit more time on the final process as well. Shessa, and I hope I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, you can DM me later about it and tell me the right way to say it. I'm so sorry. Shessa says she asks for 40% upfront, then 30% midway, and 30% before final files are given to the client. What I do in my business is require 50% upfront. And then in my new website, I've built a proofing gallery that's password protected, and they can approve or disapprove whatever files that they like or don't like. So that's been a really, really, really huge help, and it's documented. And once they've approved, I'll get those files ready and require the remaining balance to be paid before I release those files to them. And I send them a nice little email with a link to the files and all of that stuff. I really try to be A1 at customer service. So originally, when I brought up the subject of deposits, I said something about invoices and contracts. Invoices, some people do them, some people don't. Some people just kind of use the contract as a double, where they mention, what's due up front, what's due in the middle, and on the back end. But the way that I like to do things is with a contract, an invoice, and the deposit. Just because, all of that paperwork, having it is it won't hurt you, and then when you have an invoice and you get a payment, you can attach those two things together and just kind of keep your books in order. So in terms of contracts, the Graphic Artists Guild Pricing and Ethical Guidelines book discusses 7 basic types of contracts. You have your oral agreement, which I do not recommend, your letter of agreement, your purchase order, your working or your standard contract. This is the one that's most familiar to all of us. A post-project contract, which I don't recommend either. A boilerplate contract, which is this just very bare bones, very generic, very minimal kind of contract, and a retainer agreement that is set up a little differently from a regular contract because of the payment terms and the way that work is being delivered and things of that nature. There is no right contract, but there can be a contract that's just for you if you make it. What I've done is take bits and pieces from different contracts, and I've built other sections and clauses into my contract based off of my experience with clients and other creatives. Safe to say that my contract is very molded to my business model, and that is exactly how I like it. But if you want to access a generic or a boilerplate version of my contract, text design to 55444 and I will email it over to you. If all of this sounds a little daunting for you, then I recommend talking to Michelle at Logistis, a firm that specializes in these kinds of services for creatives. I'll be sure to check with her about including her contact information in the show notes in case some of you want to reach out. If you have questions that you'd like to ask me about the way that I price, let me know. I'd love to answer and, be of help to a creative who may just be starting out or, one who has questions about changing some structure in their business. We're going to take a quick break and we will be back to discuss the money mindset. Hey, guess what? Your audience is listening. Yep, you heard me. Your audience is tuned in right now, and you've got no ad to play for them. So instead, they're listening to me, and you're kicking yourself for not taking advantage. Did you know that 69% of listeners agree that podcast ads alert them about new products and services? Still need convincing? No problem. Email us. Advertise@1991.agency for details on this 30-second mid-roll ad slot. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that everyone has watched the Tiger King documentary. What a wild-ass ride that is. I couldn't even finish it, but that one line is like my favorite line now. So get used to it, guys. Anyway, it's time to get into the money mindset portion of the show. ConsolidateCredit.org defines the money mindset as an overriding attitude that one has about their finances. It drives how you make key financial decisions every day, and it can have a big impact on your ability to achieve your goals. If you change your mindset about money, you tend to make better choices about how to overcome challenges. In layman's terms, adjusting your money mindset can either open or close the doors to your money-making potential. But is it all about the money? No. It's about reversing the roles, and instead of allowing money to run your life, you regain that control. Remember earlier on in the episode when we talked about the way you think, saying, oh, that's not me, or I can't do it? Those are the kinds of phrases that negatively contribute to your money mindset. You have to be open about money so that you can change your relationship with it and unlock your earning potential. Of course, this isn't magically done overnight. This requires work and unlearning old behaviors to implement the new ones. When I was growing up, I wanted for nothing, and so money was never a thought to me. As I became an adult and started having responsibilities, I developed a tumultuous relationship with money, which was heavily influenced by my friends at the time. I never stopped to try and educate myself on becoming fiscally responsible so that when I did acquire lump sums of money from my paycheck, my tax return, from clients, I just spent the money only to worry myself and regret what I had done later. That is absolutely no way to live. Lack of money with no visible out in sight can be depressing. It used to be everyone else's fault why there was a ceiling on my earning potential, but I came to find out that I'm the one who placed the damn ceiling there in the first place. Change in a life has to start with the one who's living it. The first thing I had to learn to change my money mindset was how to improve my relationship with money. Money is inanimate, yes, but if you have a positive relationship with money, then you'll never be afraid of losing it. For example, if you have to pay for a new transmission in your car, instead of thinking, geez, I'm always losing money, this is so unfair, complain, think this way instead. Geez, I'm so grateful that I had the money to fix this issue in the first place. Now I can continue to get back and forth to work or meetings and make more money. Money is universal. It is called the almighty dollar because it is important to so many. Surely that importance and energy placed on money counts for something. Let's look at the phrase money in circulation. Circulation is the action of going or moving around, much like its root word, circle. What happens when you start at one place in a circle and go around? You eventually come right back to where you started, right? If you view money in this manner, you will start to see that you stop worrying so much about when you'll come into money again. The money you've just let go is making its way back to you. Being positive about it will help you avoid stressing. With the current climate of the world, I know that this kind of information may not be heard or accepted, but these are my beliefs, and I hope that I've attracted like-minded individuals here. You also need to respect money. No amount of money is beneath you, ever. From the penny to the nickel to the 20 or the Ben Frank. No amount of money is beneath you. Those coins living under your couch, sweep them up and put them into a piggy bank. At some point in time, you'll look back and realize that you have a nice little chunk of change, literally. Round up on what you're spending. Does something cost $6.20? Round up anyway. A lot of banking apps automate this process for you and deposit the funds right into your savings, which can come in handy later. Know that it is okay to say no. Not all money is worth the trouble. I have turned down projects before because the client did not value the service I offered. As much as I would love to take every project thrown to me for the money, the reality is that I would be a wreck. I want to work with people who value what I'm bringing to the table and vice versa. If a client doesn't respect me, then I kindly decline the opportunity with absolutely no love lost. You'll empower yourself and you deserve that if you implement the same thing. Out of the many amazing answers I received from fellow creatives, I have to say that the response to the money mindset question were the best. Here are a few. Jess at Backbone Business says, raising my prices felt like something that would happen someday. But the reality was that I didn't need to get better at my craft to make the money I really needed. It's not something that had to wait until I deserved more money. I wasn't being honest with myself, which meant that I wasn't honest with my clients. I had to develop healthy boundaries and risk the idea that some people would say no to my prices. Higher prices aren't just for me. They're also so my clients show up to the work. The project can't happen without them. Ashley at Shore to Summit says, I have 2 books that changed my entire mindset, Profit First and You Are a Badass at Making Money. Profit First is a game changer of a book for the act of making money, while You Are a Badass helps with building a healthy money mindset. Michelle at Sourced Collective says money is abundant. My time and strengths are valuable and the right clients find me based on my output. That's like legit an affirmation. I think I have to put that one put it in my pocket. Martha Hartwell Tate says, part of it is knowing you are good at what you do, because knowing what you are worth comes from that. That being said, imposter syndrome makes this very hard sometimes. To combat this, it's so important to collect client testimonials, look back at projects you're proud of, and have a tribe of people who do what you do to cheer you along. Creatives, being strategic about pricing comes with time and patience. There are so many resources available, but only you know the price that is right for you and your business. Test the waters and take notes. Next week, we will talk about creatives and the books. Learn tips from a pro for balancing your books and staying compliant so Uncle Sam doesn't send the hounds after you. This is the Creatives and Design Cast. I'm your host, Teron Joyner, at Teron Joyner on IG. In the words of Adam at Enjoy Slow Tea, be good, do good, be in service to others, know your worth, and ask for help. We will see you next episode on Creatives and.
Thanks for listening to us on the Creatives and Design Cast. Follow us at Creatives and on all platforms. Email questions or submissions to creativesand@1991.agency or jump into the conversation on Twitter using #CreativesAnd.